Involving, I guess, staff and the idea that questions about the meeting should be referred to the committee chairman. But I wanted to ask you a slightly different question, which is, does the White House know now what actually happened? Do you have issues with the idea that someone, perhaps in the executive branch, shared information on the White House grounds without you knowing about it? Are you investigating this? Do you believe it was a leak? Or was it in fact someone on the White House staff or NSC staff or on loan to either who provided the information and therefore it's not a leak?
So obviously all of what I know has been available through public comments. I know that Chairman Nunes has confirmed that he was on White House grounds Tuesday, and frankly any questions regarding who he met with or why he was here should be referred to him. I've seen some of the comments that he's made to your outlet in particular about who he met with, and I would refer you to his comments that he's made. I'm not going to get into who he met with or why he met with them. I think that's something that he has been very, very clear, and I'll let him answer. This is he is the one who has discussed what he is reviewing, and so I will leave it up to him and not try to get in the middle of that.
Just to close the circle on it, I'm asking a slightly different question.
Okay.
At least I'm trying to ask a slightly different question, which is, does the White House know what happened now beyond public accounts? And are you satisfied that you don't have an inappropriate leak in the executive branch?
No, I'm not. We're not concerned about that. I know that he is, again, everything that I know about what he has done is through public reports that he has made on the record to different folks. When he said he has multiple sources, he had met with different folks to gather things as part of his review of the situation. And so all I know and what I'm willing to communicate is what has been made available through on-the-record comments that he has made.
To come to White House grounds, you have to be cleared onto the White House.
No, not necessarily. I don't know that members of Congress need to be cleared.
But wouldn't the White House want to know?
Again, I think there's a difference. He's doing a review, and it's not something that we're going to necessarily get in the middle of or get in the way of. It's part of it is to let him review and have conversations and look at things that he thinks are relevant.
Sean, a clarification on your answer to Margaret. You just said, I don't know that members of Congress have to get cleared in. There is some question about that. Who in the White House signed him in, essentially, to be able to get
I don't know that you have to. I'll be glad to check on that. I'm not sure that that's how that works, but I will follow up on that point.
Okay, so the second question is, and it's related to this, I understand that you're not going to speak about some of the swirl, what's surrounding this issue with Chairman Nunes. Does the White House believe that he can still lead an impartial investigation, or would the administration support some of these calls now for an independent committee to investigate this?
First of all, I would question what this is, because as I've mentioned countless times from this podium, there's two issues at hand. There's multiple. There's, number one, there's any action with respect to Russia itself, and every single person that's been briefed by Director Comey in particular and the FBI has said there's nothing there. What he is looking into are two things that we are aware of because of the pleas that we have made. One is the leaks of classified and other information that have come out, and two is whether or not there has been people that have been unmasked and whether or not there's surveillance security. I don't know why we stand by the original request that was made, and I think Director Comey in open testimony the other day talked about what the FBI is looking into. So I think we, have a lot of people looking into this whole situation.
Sean, will the administration will the White House pursue a leak investigation into whoever is giving Chairman Nunes this information, if it's in the executive branch?
At this point, we're letting the review of this situation proceed, and we can address that after he decides to be clear about that.
Why is this leak okay, but other leaks are not?
It's not. I think there's a difference between a leak and someone pursuing a review of a situation that they have determined. That's not. There's a difference between a leak, someone leaking out to reporters for nefarious, to take classified information and share it with people who aren't cleared. Chairman Nunes is cleared. He is the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. Someone who is cleared to share classified information with somebody else cleared is not a leak. Zeke.
I have two for you. Just a quick housekeeping note. At the beginning of the briefing, you read out the State Department statement on the protests and arrests in Russia. Does that reflect the White House's views sometimes?
That reflects the view of the United States government.
Okay. Just want to clarify that. And secondly, back on, you mentioned that there were lessons learned off of what went down last week, the last several weeks around healthcare. Could you go into some specifics of what some of those lessons are in terms of the president talked a lot about, he learned a lot about loyalty, I think is one of the lines he used on Friday. does he believe that some members of his party are no longer loyal to him? What are some of the lessons?
No, I'm not going to go through. I mean, obviously, this is an internal thing that we discussed, but I will say that we look at things like everything from who we met with and when we met with them to whether or not we should have how everything was rolled out and what organizations were met with, what commitments were met and when. There's a lot that goes into this, and you look at whether or not that's applicable to another situation, whether that's unique. But obviously, yeah, you do look at some of the individuals that you met with, both in terms of timing, in terms of commitment, in terms of substance, and evaluate just the process itself, but then also to some degree the individuals and whether or not that is someone that there's several folks. And again, it depends on the aspect of it. There's a legislative affairs team, there's a public policy team, there's a comms aspect to this, but we all internally talk about what went well, what didn't, and we do that not just with the bad but the good. I mean, I think Jonathan asked it somewhat at the beginning, but I think if in most organizations, whether or not you do something really well or not as well, it's usually incumbent upon you to think, what did we do well, so that for things that we did really well, we sustain those kind of aspects of something, because there's always something to improve. And even when you don't do as well, but there's parts of things that you did that could have done that you did well, and you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So there's an ongoing piece to this, Major.
So can you just follow up a little bit on Chairman Nunes, and I have a question about Jared in a second. So, yes, members of Congress may not need to be cleared in, but to get access to a SCIF, I do believe that requires some cooperation from the executive branch, because there are intelligence places on Capitol Hill that are secure that this meeting could have taken place. So it creates the impression that Chairman Nunes came over here and with some degree of cooperation with this White House was able to carry out this meeting and then make the announcement that he did, which is perceived by some, most of them Democrats, I'll grant you that it was trying to be helpful to this president and this administration. So it appears there was some degree of cooperation in this process that the White House granted Chairman Nunes, making it not just an investigative action, but a cooperative one.
Right. So I would refer you to two things. Number one, we've asked both of these entities, both the House and the Senate Intelligence Committees, to undertake this review. So it is partially at our request that they're looking into this. Number two, based on the public comments that he made to Margaret's organization, he has said, from my understanding on the record, that he did not meet with White House staff. So again, I think you're trying to make something that he has himself, from what I've read, not actually been the case.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you about cooperation to have access to a SCIF,
I understand
which is
that.
something that has to be carried out with your agreement.
I will be glad to take a look at that and figure out whether or not that is an accurate statement or not.
Okay, let me ask you about Jared. There is an understanding that's trying to be worked out, as we understand it, between Jared and the Senate Intelligence Committee. Is that testimony? Is that something that the committee has requested? Is he volunteered?
Yeah.
Does he believe he has something to explain to that committee and more broadly the American public about what he did on behalf of the transition, with whom he met with, and some of the meetings that he took that are raising questions about Russia and folks that he met with that are outside of diplomatic channels but have other aspects to their Russian business deals that may cause concern?
Right. So throughout the campaign and the transition, Jared served as the official primary point of contact with foreign governments and officials until we had State Department officials up. Once we assumed
request.
That's correct. And so, given this role, he volunteered to speak with Chairman Burr's committee, but has not received any confirmation regarding a time for a meeting or anything.
Is this going to be a private meeting, or is this going to be?
I don't know.
And what is he trying to accomplish with that?
I think, based on the questions that surround this, he volunteered to go in and sit down with them and say, hey, I'm glad to talk about the role that I played and the individuals I met with. But again, remember, given the role that he played both during the campaign and during the transition, he met with countless individuals. That was part of his job. That was part of his role. And he executed it completely as he was supposed to.
And so he doesn't believe he owes the American public an explanation
for what? Doing his job, meeting with. But you're acting as though there's something nefarious about doing what he was actually tasked to do.
It's not every day that someone in a senior position like Jared's volunteers to go talk to the Senate Intelligence Committee about an investigation
because of
dealing with meddling by a foreign power.
Right, and I think based on the media frenzy around this, and I'm answering it, and I'm just saying to you that based on the media